So, welcome to our first lunchtime panel discussion. It's wonderful to have so many people here today. Thank you for joining us. And I'm Atalanta Moquette because we have quite a few people who are not members of Giving Women. I think that this is a subject which is really timely, as this is it's the 10 days which has been the awareness of on violence to women. So we really feel this is a very appropriate panel discussion to have during these 10 days. Just a few words about Giving Women. Giving Women is a membership organization for women, and the role of Giving Women, our mission is to support projects which are directed at women and girls to improve their lives. We do this through capacity building, but we have three pillars to our work. The core of our work is supporting these projects, and then we have an educational component which is there to train us and train the landscape of development work into becoming more and more professional. And then the third pillar, which is what this panel discussion is about, is building awareness on issues which are affecting women all over the world. And so we try and bring together the real actors who are making a difference in improving the lives of women, bringing awareness to their work, reflecting on what they're doing, and looking at action. We are delighted today to have Monique Villa, who was the executive director of the Thomson Reuters Foundation. She has had a really incredible career, ending her career as the head of Agence France Presse, but has been an incredible activist bringing forward the issue of modern day slavery to a much broader public. So we feel very, very honored to have her here to moderate our event. And before we start, we're going to show you a short film which will sort of set the context of the program today. So I will now pass on to Kathleen to show the film, and then Monique will take over. Thank you.
Tick if the following apply to you. Has your passport or ID been confiscated by your employer? Are you accompanied wherever you go? Does someone always answer questions on your behalf? Are you forced to live and work in the same place? Are you bullied or shouted at? Are you physically abused? Does your employer make sexual advances? Are you denied adequate food, appropriate clothing, medical care, time off, sleep? Do your wages go to repaying an impossibly large debt? If you answered yes to some or all of these questions, you may be one of a not-so-exclusive club. You're a slave. You may think slavery was abolished in the 19th century. In fact, it still exists today, and there are more slaves now than ever in history. No one really knows how big the problem is, but a global slavery index by Walk Free Foundation puts the number at 35.8 million. 10 nations alone account for 71% of the world's slaves. Almost half of them are in India. Next comes China, followed by Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Russia, Nigeria, Democratic Republic of Congo, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Thailand. Forced labor generates around $150 billion in illegal profits every year, according to the International Labour Organization. Less than a quarter of modern slaves are in commercial sexual exploitation, but their labor contributes to 2/3 of this enormous sum. These are the facts we know. What we don't know is how many people escape from slavery each year. Survivors are hard to find, hard to reach, hard to help. This is a silent crime. Those who were trafficked on fake documents or forced into a life of crime are often treated as criminals, not as victims. They may be threatened with deportation or prosecution. They risk being re-trafficked if they return home. All have been physically or mentally scarred. Survivors are the experts on modern slavery. our guides in the battle against human trafficking. They have lived through a crime against humanity, and they can help us stop it. What can we learn from survivors?
So, hello everybody. I don't know if you can see me or not. I am Monique Villa, and I have run the Thomson Reuters Foundation for 11 years, and I stepped down 1 year ago. It was the opportunity to work in charity. I was before that a journalist and a businesswoman, when I discovered slavery 12 years ago, I was absolutely taken aback by our ignorance on the issue. And one of the reasons of this is, as it was said in this little film that we did for the Trust Conference 3 years ago in 2017, and the numbers have changed things because the numbers change, sadly they grow. We are now officially, according to the ILO, at 40.3 million slaves in the world. Probably it is a lot more, and we have no idea of many, because slavery is a silent crime. And as it is a silent crime, you don't have any slave who can say, hello, I'm here, I'm a slave. You can't, because you would be beaten up, you would be tortured, you would be taken away. So it's very difficult to address because you don't see it. And I decided at the Thomson Reuters Foundation to shed light on that crime, which is the worst of all human crime. When you transform someone into a commodity and into a slave, someone who was perfectly normal before. So that's a huge crime that happened in almost total impunity because, for instance, in 2018, so 2 years ago, only 7,100 people have been convicted for slavery, which means that, and we have 40 million slaves and probably a lot more. So it means just that slavery is not on the radar of prosecutors. They don't know how to address it. All specialists say that you have more or less 30% of slaves which are in sex trafficking, 70% in forced labor. And all these convictions 2 years ago, the 7,000, only 250 were for forced labor. And it is 70% of slavery, because prosecutors don't know how to address the issue. So it just gives you a little bit of the dimension of the problem. But all these are numbers, and people don't remember numbers. People remember stories. And so to be able to speak of that crime, we have to tell the story of many survivors. And it's through understanding what happened to them that you can apprehend what is the crime. So we have today on this panel, and I just published last year a book called Slaves Among Us, which is to tell the story of 3 survivors, which are all extraordinary characters, as most survivors are, because you need to be incredibly strong and resilient to come back as a person after having been a slave and treated like dirt for years. And so these survivors tell their stories in their own words, and it allows me to explain the whole business, the whole mental health issue around it, the whole PTSD, and speaking of the extraordinary organizations that help survivors to come back to a life and to a normal life. And today we have 3 organizations chosen by Giving Women, but that I happen to know well. All 3 of them are working on helping survivors to survive and to get a life, because you need to get a life. Surviving is not enough. You are no longer a victim. You are no longer a survivor. You are a person in your own. You want to work. You want to have access to jobs. But before you can have access to jobs, you need to have access to psychotherapists and people that will deal with your mental health. You have to have access to people that will help you in your education that most of the time you have completely passed because you were a slave very young and just could not be educated, etc. So many aspects. Today we have the chance to have Somaly man and Chan Ratana from AFESIP in Cambodia. I think you have all read the biography of these extraordinary women, so I'm not going to repeat it, and we will be able to jump into the discussion more quicker. We have Taban Shoresh from Lotus Flower. She's not here immediately because she's in hospital, sadly. She was taken to hospital last week, and she will join as soon as they have finished one of her exams. So she won't be in great shape, but she's a great woman, so you will see her strengths. Lotus Flowers, her organization, I will just a word because she's not there, is an organization that has started to deal with the Yazidi women. You remember the Yazidi? It was the woman that ISIS took over in August 2014 in Sinjar in Iraq and killed the men. It was a true genocide, and took all the women, which were not too old, to make them sex slaves. And they sold it and resold it and resold them, etc. These women, when they can escape, arrive in camps, refugee camps in Iraq, and I've been privileged to see them there. And they are parked in places, different places from all the other refugees and the Syrian refugees, etc., because still the Yazidis are considered as an inferior race. It's something horrible. And so Taban and Lotus Flower have been brave enough to try to help them with their mental health issues and their well-being in general. So she will speak of that, and she will speak also of what happened since COVID, because it, of course, for all of the organization, it has made things get worse. We don't have numbers yet, but we know that slavery is increasing through the crisis of COVID, the increasing poverty, what happens in the camps, migrants, etc. So we will speak of that later. And finally, we have Trina Talukdar here, who with Robin Kranti, have created an organization in India called Kranti. And they have tried to help women and girls, mostly girls, who are the daughters of sex slaves in the Red District in Mumbai. And they help them by giving them education, giving them mental health, giving them possibility to even to travel around the world, to learn more, to go to American university. I mean, they have extraordinary stories of what they achieved. And Kranti has been doing such a precious job, but it's very small because you cannot have 200 girls in a room, and they have a very small flat because they don't have the means they should have. And so I really hope they are able to scale their operation soon, and that we will help them do that. So without further ado, I wanted to turn to Taban, but I will not turn to Taban because she has not joined yet. I will turn to Somaly and to...
Bonnie, just to let you know, Taban should be joining us in a couple of minutes. So, but
okay, but we'll start with Somaly, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she is joining us,
and we will show Taban's film,
and we'll show her film as well. Okay.
Okay. So Somaly, if you want to jump in and explain how you came to become what you are now, but starting at 11 years old as an enslaved little girl in Cambodia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Monique. My name is Somaly. I was trafficked from my village, village to the town since I was young, and then I have been sold into the brothel in Phnom Penh in the town. I've been in slavery for a long time, sex slavery, slave since the beginning of my life. I don't want to go back to my life. What I've been through is horrible. And that is just the reason why I do this. Because imagine you 30 years that I get out from the brothel. I get out my body, but my story is here. So why I opened AFESIP, because I have two choices. One is commit suicide, because what I gone through, I cannot forget it. But helping people, helping the girl is helping myself, it's make myself stronger. So I'm a founder. I found AFESIP in 1996. AFESIP, we work to help the victim of trafficking and victim of sexual abuse. So we we empower victim to become survivor, then we empower survivor to become a part of solution. So for all of these, like over 25 years, we have been saved over 7,000 just in Cambodia. I don't talk about Laos and Vietnam and all this. I just talk about my country. Over 7,000 girls that we victim and survivor we have been saved. And in AFESIP, you know, it's not easy when we speak about the victim, right? So to recover victim, we have 4 programs in Cambodia. So we have one, we have center, recovery center, we call. So we provide them healthcare. Of course, that most of the girls who've been trafficked.
Sorry to interrupt you, Somaly, but when you receive the girls, you first you help them escape sometimes, and it happens, and then when you receive them, usually it's what, years into a brothel, or what is it? Make
it depends of. Yeah. It depends of. Some girls stay for like about 2-3 years. Some of girls stay 18 years with us. Some of girls stay 20 years with us. Depend of psychology. Depend of the little young girl who've been trafficked since they was young, so they lost a family. So we cannot found the family, so they stay with us. So we have healthcare. We also provide them legal assistance because most of the girls, of course, been trafficked or raped. And we also provide them psychology, counseling, art therapy, yoga, also meditation, because you know that I believe on meditation a lot. And we have the second we call economic, or we call education and training. So we offer like two two education. One is like education. We have also vocational training. So we always encourage the victim, you know, to go to school, the victim and survivor to go to school, because I don't have education on myself, and I want this victim and survivor to have education. So we always try to motivate them since the primary school until university degree. And we have also provide them also vocational training. So for the young woman, you know, the young woman who been trafficked for a long time, so they don't have background of education, so we encourage them and provide them the skill training. So we have like hairdressing, like beauty salon, we have like sewing, we have barista, we have so many things, because right now more than 20 years that we work with the partner. So we have also provide them English and computer class inside of the center. In the moment in the center, we have 130 victims and survivors who are care in our center. And our third program, we call economic empowerment. Like, you know, helping survivor, you have to provide them, like you say before, tough economic. They have to have money. They have to be strong. But just a survivor, just strong is not enough. They have to have also money, because I always believe a victim have stand up, they have job employment, they are strong, and they can say no to the trafficker. They can say no to even to the, how we call, husband who beating her or beating them. So when the girl graduates skill training, we reintegrate them back in the society through job employment. And the chief of that is been survivor before who work with me right now. So for the young girl, we encourage them to, you know, to have like education. So we encourage them to do education until university and until master degree. We continue to support also the girl who have been reintegrated. So we follow up them as long as they need. So before, obviously we say 3 years, but it doesn't work. 3 years, the victim need you. The victim psychologically, sometimes we say they are strong, but when they face with the village people, when they face sometimes with the old client, with the old trafficker, they still weak. So because of that, but that we have the fourth program we call survivor empowerment. So survivor empowerment, that is my dream, because after say here to 10 years, I'm thinking about 90% the staff of AFESIP is survivor. And today I have 30% of staff are survivor from slavery that have been recruited 25 years ago. So in AFESIP, we have most of survivor, they are right now are like nurse. We have psychology survivor, education manager, administration and finance, caretaker, and we have managers who are survivor from trafficking and sexual abuse. They finish the bachelor degree and they continuing a master degree. So most of the girl right now, they continue master degree. I want to say over 25 years, I am so proud of my girl. And I never regret it in my life. My work is over 20 years. I have all of them near me. Today they are all around me here. I'm so happy. And now I just want to introduce one of survivor. She been with me, Ratana. She been with me like over 10 years. She graduated bachelor degree of psychology. Yeah. And she continue right now master degree of psychology. She's our psychology and she's helping so many victims and other survivor. So Ratana is here.
So, hello. And I have a question for you. So when a survivor arrives at your center, and obviously they are in a terrible situation mentally, of having been beaten up for so many months, years, whatever, and treated as total dirt. How do you do to make that they can again feel like a human being and feel any empathy even for themselves?
You ask me or Aradhana? I might first, I might first just want to let everyone know that the role model is very good for the girl. So when the victim arrives, we present ourselves. I always talking about my life. She's talking about her life, and we try to encourage them to say, you can do whatever you want in your life. So Ratana, go.
Yes. Okay, first I would like to say hello to everyone. My name is Ratana and my background is a psychologist student, and currently I am is a economic empowerment program manager and psychologist in AFESIP. Thank you for your question. It's really touched and really interesting. Yes, I am the one who I go to with the staff who I go to pick the girl, the new admits to the center. Because all the time we need the psychologists come along to support them when we go to the society. Yes, when we go to meet the victim at the first time, we introduce ourselves, and then especially I am a survivor. Like mommy said, she like we said about the role model. I say about my past experience and I say about my achievement, and then she feel that what going on in the past, she still have a chance to be getting better, and I am better right now, and she feel comfortable, and she will think that however the bad thing happened to her, she still have a chance. And then I encourage her, I use a psychoeducation, and then comfort her in the moment when I go to pick up her. Yes, currently we use like this, and on the way we coming to the center, I always support her, and comfortable, and I use like a trauma first aid with her as much as that I can, like what I can use and learn from psychology as a master, and make her feel comfortable and feel that she's have a new life when she coming and we see meet us. Yes, giving her love, hugs, that is really warmly. I feel that because when the staff come to pick up me the first time, I feel that I have a new life. And when I'm traveling on the road, I think that I am reborn. I think that I will change my life. The
Yeah.
past is gone, and everyone always comfort me, just like as early it means that the women are fair, and everyone always encourage. So that's why I have motivation. I feel that I'm alive. I still alive. However, I want to be a commit suicide. Yes. So that's why I use what I had to the victim. Yes. And still to the center, we use the Laros program to help them. And right now, I think that it's useful.
Okay, good. Do you do group therapy, or is it therapy for each one of them separately? Do you use group therapy?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we have individual and group therapy. Altogether, they have to got like a counseling, provide individual counseling in every girl in the center. They got this. Yes, they got it. After that, we have group, and then we have the other activities such as the therapy, self-help group, and primary mental health about every topics and everything that we can provide them.
So thank you very much. So has Taban arrived or not? Yes?
Taban is with us. Yes.
Yes.
I'm here. I
Yes.
hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
Very well. And you
Excellent.
don't look, like someone sick in hospital. So that's good.
Try to frame it well.
Thank you, Taban, for being here.
Yeah.
You're welcome. It's a nice break to the day. Thank
Taban,
you.
I explained that your action with Lotus Flower has been essentially with Yazidi women in camps in Iraq, and that you
Yes.
did extraordinary work there. But of course, I let you tell it and tell us how you deal with that, how you have organized it, how do you make to have a proper access to them in Iraq, in the camps,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Okay. Brilliant. I was going to play a video, so I don't know if we should play the video and then I can talk through it, because then you can visualize it.
Yeah, I'll play the video now for you, Taban.
Amazing.
Okay?
Thank you.
ISIS's 7-year reign of terror over northern Iraq and Syria left an estimated 45,000 civilians dead and hundreds of thousands displaced, many of whom now live in refugee camps across the region. In August 2014, ISIS committed genocide against the Yazidi people in the town of Sinjar, murdering men and boys and kidnapping an estimated 6,000 women and girls, who were then repeatedly raped and sold as slaves. Those who escaped fled to Mount Sinjar, where they spent many terrifying weeks without food, shelter, or water. Around 3,000 women and girls are still missing.
خودی داعش بسر ملقی امروین ام یانزر و جادما زارو كدمتيبون برشيو ناني خشكي كزرام الدحا جا حيوانا
تيساني ام بينا كرنشت تلقى هنا ما دي ساباز حتى شيف ام غشنا بربير بنجر روجامان بحماري بسر قريج كتن بحماري بسر قريج كتن دي ساب تلقى هنا ما دي ساباز دا ام چونا برشرفدين
ومير مدينة مدين فنيري مساغي من المدينة نحن نتجاي خارجي كيرا وبهين قلقت هاد مزانيت كشتنا مدينة هاد دستيوان دو صابون الجم شاشمير هابون هادو سات كشتين.
In an effort to help displaced women rebuild their lives, the Lotus Flower has set up female-driven community centers in refugee camps across the Kurdistan region of Iraq. In July 2019, they invited human rights lawyer Baroness Helena Kennedy and restaurateur Asma Khan to visit their projects.
Baroness Helena Kennedy is here visiting the project with us. She's been very close and involved in supporting the Yazidi stories, and she's always wanted to come and visit the region and visit our projects. And I think she's blown away by what she's seen.
This place bears the scars of 5 years of horror in this region. Lotus Flower is running projects which are essentially about letting these women heal. It's about learning literacy skills, reading and writing, having classes about how to become entrepreneurs, how you might set up your own small business which will make you financially independent.
You will only get there if you start. If you don't go out, so if you don't give something, I made this, or taste my food, or I've written this, if you don't do it, no one will know what you are able to do. It's incredible. There's actually a huge variation in the things they do. I was very impressed by the boxing sisters. Thank you.
We're very, very lucky to have Asma Khan support. She's supporting us with the Lotus Flower cafes. She herself is a rep chef and has a restaurant. So the message that she carries for women and business is so crucial. So she's come to open the first cafe with us.
Oh, this is incredible. I love it.
It's very cool.
No, it's really nice. The whole point of having an all-female cafe was it should be like an oasis. Because, you know, food is not just about what you eat, it's about nourishment and healing your soul. You eat to heal. Making biryani. You know, in our tradition in India, turmeric is the most kind of holy kind of spice that we have because it's pure, it's puring, it's antibacterial. So you start off everything with turmeric. So I've come in here and the first thing I'm touching is turmeric. We are more similar than we realize. That this is just exactly how you would celebrate using food. The colors are really important and, you know, large, generous portions because, you know, they have lots of mouths to feed. Food is part of our DNA. Recipes are passed on from grandmother to mother to daughter. And so many women cook, yet they don't recognize this as a skill. The reason this cafe that has been set up in the Yazidi camp is so important is because it allows these women to build bridges through food. And also this is how I think women can be empowered because it gives them the tools to be independent. And after everything that they've been through, this is the first door to freedom.
Wow. Taban, obviously, when I visited the camps 4 years ago, and I didn't know you at the time, it was not like this. No cafe, anything.
Yeah. And actually that's part of it. So I was there when I was actually on one of the helicopters. So you saw in that footage that's when the Yazidis were trapped on Mount Sinjar. And I actually, from the first day, followed the stories of the Yazidi community and especially the women. So I became very close to them. And we worked in the camps. And what I realized in the camps was all the internationals were setting up these physical centers, but then actually leaving after a year. So when I came back to Kurdistan, came back to the UK, I decided to set up the Lotus Flower to support the women that had faced what they'd faced, the atrocities from ISIS, and face healing in a very holistic way. I didn't feel that it was approached in a holistic way with the other organizations. Some people were just focusing on one thing. And so when we set up our centers, we decided that we were going to have 6 pillars, which is well-being, mental health, education, livelihood, peace building, human rights, and gender equality goes through all of them. So these centers are safe social spaces for the women to gather, to come together. They've all got shared experiences and they can choose what programs they need according to their needs to heal. And all the programs have some sort of healing element in them. And so actually it was, you know, when you'd visited, I don't think you would have seen projects like that, because it's evolved now and they've been in the camps for such a long time. And I believe that they deserve the respect and dignity as humans. You know, they're in camps and they're stuck in camps. We know that, but actually life can still continue. And all we can do is try and provide tools and opportunities where they can access things. So building businesses is one of the big pillars that we focus on. And it's actually a very, very important part, because it changes the way they're seen in the community and within their families as well.
So now the Yazidis have started to be able to come back to Sinjar, indeed. I mean, few of them, little by little. So you have seen girls that come back and that leave, that are really completely transformed.
Yeah, so we've had so many different transformations and great case studies. I can tell you a few. At the moment, some people are going back to Sinjar, but not everyone's going back to Sinjar. We've still got a lot of people staying in the camps, but we've had people that have been relocated abroad. And I can give you a story of, actually, you would have seen her in the video, Noura, one of our boxing instructors. So the mother, we decided to train as a boxing instructor, and the boxing program is actually a form of mental health support, but also a way for income generating. So we train the women to become professional boxing coaches, and we hire them to take the classes with the women. So Noura, who we've trained to become a boxing instructor, we went to her house and noticed that she had a 12-year-old daughter. Now, Noura has been coming to our centres for over a year. She's done sewing, she's done adult literacy. We do so many different programs, and she's been through most of them. And actually, we'd never seen her daughter. And so the first time I saw her daughter, I asked Noura, you know, why has she not come to our centres? We've got projects for her age. And Noura turned around and said, we've never been able to get her out of the cabin since she's been rescued. Now, Noura's daughter at the time was 12 years old, and she was one of the ones that was taken. So her mother was taken, all the kids were taken by ISIS, and so was her daughter. Now, at the time that she was taken, she was 7 years old, and she'd been separated from her mum and sold on to 6 different ISIS members in 3 years, and she was repeatedly raped during that time. So when she was rescued back into the camp, she not only was physically impacted by it, she couldn't walk when she came back, but culturally and mentally and emotionally, she didn't want to come out of the cabin. She was so traumatized and felt so stigmatized from all the other girls her own age group. She didn't want to see anyone. She was 12 by the time we'd seen her. And I don't know what came over me, but I just said, just come boxing, because I'd seen the boxing classes. And I know that actually one of the biggest problems here was she was scared at how she would be perceived by the community, especially the other girls her own age. And for me, I'd seen the boxing classes, and I'd seen that actually when you're in that boxing thing, because it's so new and women in the region do not box, the girls are so enthusiastic, they're just focused on the boxing. So she came to the boxing the next day, and her mum was over the moon. And then she came the next day, and then she came the next day. And then when we left after about a month, her mum sent me a message and said, actually, she's gone back to school, which was phenomenal, because she'd never been to school and she was just reluctant to go back to school. So she'd gone back to school. And then a few months later, they'd had a relocation to Australia. And she finally accepted, because she felt that actually she and her children felt comfortable enough to be relocated. And I think had her daughter not been in that position to get her confidence back and get some of that healing, I don't think they would have made the move. So it's really, really important. And I see our centres as like a safe social space, not just to help them continue living while they're living in the camps, but also once they leave, they take those skills with them, they take that healing with them, and it's really important. And they have access to psychologists, they have access, you know, we do yoga and meditation, and I believe all those things are very important. So it's something that they heal from while they're in the camps, but also once they leave.
Yeah. and one point, which is that indeed very often when they, especially children, when they arrive from slavery, and they just cannot speak, they just cannot say a word.
Yeah.
I've seen in Kailash Satyarthi, you know, the Nobel Prize ashram in India, in Rajasthan, and so many children who could not speak at the beginning. And he was telling the story of these two boys, 11 or 12. They were taken as, rescued, arrived in the camp, refused to speak to anybody, even to other children, for 15 days. And after 15 days, the first question they asked, and it was to another child, but these guys, why are they so nice with us? They want our liver, or they want our eyes? They could not even imagine kindness. They never had seen kindness in their lives. And this is so difficult to rebuild. So for all of you here who do that, I mean, it's extraordinary. It's just an extraordinary job you're doing.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Once they come or they're rescued, they are extremely scared and extremely worried to speak to anyone. A lot of us know what's happened, but we don't encourage anyone to say anything or talk. They will only talk when they're ready. And in Noura's daughter's particular case, she didn't want to see anyone. She didn't want to talk to anyone. Not only had they had their father killed in front of all of them, but they'd faced all the atrocities after that as well. So it's very, very difficult. And I think what's unique with the way that we approach it is that we do focus on the individual. So it's not one size fits all. It really, really is. What does that individual need? And we're very lucky that we can cater in that way. And I think being in the camps, having a safe, stable place allows us to do that. That cafe, for example, is actually a gathering space for women. It's been a godsend because the men have places to go. They have restaurants, they have cafes, they can leave the camps, they can jump in a taxi and go to the city and come back. The women can't do any of that. So what we've tried to do is create a mini city for the women and girls inside refugee camps, and to kind of bypass all the cultural laws. And within that, we're actually shifting and changing their position in the communities. Some women are leading their family as being the only income earner, and it's completely changed their position. So it's great to see.
Good. Look, Taban, thank you, but I think we need to let Trina speak now, because
thank you.
We haven't seen her yet. And Trina, I would be very, very happy if you could explain. So these girls that you have in your house, flat in Bombay, of sex workers or trafficked women, and who have been traumatized because they have seen everything that happened, because they sleep under the bed of their mother, so going on, and sometimes suffer the same kind of rape, etc. So how did they arrive in your place? Is it comparable to the stories you've just heard? Is it different? I would be interested to hear.
Thank you, Monique. Before I start speaking, I have to say I'm so inspired by hearing both Somaly and Taban. So thank you for sharing those stories. I have read about your organizations, but hearing it firsthand from you is really incredible. At Kranti, how the girls come to us is we partner with various other organizations that work in the red light area, but they're working on other issues. So for example, they might be working on HIV prevention, they might be working on providing legal aid to sex workers, but they don't have a home and a program for adolescent girls that we do, but they have that outreach. So we've partnered with them, and they identify the young girls and women. And then we go in, we talk to their mothers if they are accessible, or, whoever needs to be talked to. Sometimes it's the authorities, the police. The police have rescued and brought several girls to us as well. So the girls come through to us in this combination of ways. And then, of course, we have a home/flat in Mumbai that Monique has visited and referred to. And when the girls come to us, the first thing we focus on is psychological well-being. And I was so happy today hearing both Somalia and Taban talk about how central that is, because I feel, at least in India, with a lot of organizations who are working with this kind of community, there isn't that much awareness and support for mental health. And it's a big loss because
Anywhere I can tell you, it's the same everywhere.
I mean, I can only speak confidently about India, but yeah, I was so happy to hear this today because we realized so quickly that we can't do education or anything else. We can't build anything else on top until we work on overcoming their trauma, building emotional resilience and stability. So we have all the girls have individual therapists that they meet one-on-one every week. And we do various kinds of group therapy as well, art therapy, movement therapy, so on and so forth. And then we admit the girls into mainstream education institutions. Unless the age gap is too big. So, we do have 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds who've never been to school. And I can't have her sit in a class 1 classroom. So in those kind of cases, the girls homeschool and take their exams at home. And usually by high school or university level, we're able to integrate them with the education, with the institutionalized education system.
You also teach them English, which is very important for them.
Yeah, yes, we do. It does. And if they go to school, most of the education in India is in English. So if they go to school, they learn there as well. And Monique, like you said, they traveled, so that helps. And then what we believe is our secret sauce that I'm going to reveal today is we really believe that these girls are the best social change leaders of the next generation because they've faced these problems firsthand and they're very passionate about going back to their communities and solving a lot of these social problems they grew up facing. And, we really heard it from them. In the first few years of Kranti, whenever we used to ask the girls, what do you want to do? They would always say, I want to be a teacher, but I want to teach the children of sex workers because no one admits us in school. Or, I want to be a therapist because for other children who are facing abuse in the red light area, because we had no support when that happened with us. So we really heard it from them. And so we have a leadership and social justice education curriculum that we run with all the girls where we together we study about various social justice issues from LGBTQI rights to Black Lives Matters, which happened now, slavery in India, so on and so forth, as well as teach them leadership, entrepreneurship, conflict resolution, creative problem solving, all the skills we feel they need to become social change leaders in future. And so the girls who have graduated from our program are all working on various social issues that they are most interested in. A couple of our girls are therapists for the younger children. Some of our girls work with other adolescent girls to make sure they don't drop out of school, run mentorship programs. Two of our girls are very interested in animal rights and work at animal care shelters with rescue animals, so on and so forth. The list is, one of them is a certified yoga instructor, one of them is certified Zumba instructor, and they teach specifically in orphanages and organizations that work with children from slums, and they use their yoga and Zumba and everything for them.
And it's remarkable the way you do, but I think that most of what you do is you make them live together. So it's kind of permanent group therapy, I would say, no? Which is a bit different from other things I've seen over the world.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I mean, there are bad days, don't get me wrong. We realized this definitely during the lockdown the most. Like, imagine 35 adolescent girls locked into an apartment and they can't leave. So there were rough days. But Monique, you're right. I think living together, finding family is one of the most healing experiences we can go through. So even most of our staff members also live at home. So, and as you know, I'm living in Goa now, but 3 of the girls are living here with me. right now. So I think having that kind of a family setup is very, very healing for the girls. It definitely helps.
Do you have the same experience, Somali, on this group and family-like organization?
So in Cambodia, we don't have we call like family adoption. We don't have it because most here the people, first of all, the people they look down on the victim. And then like Cambodia, you have to know the story of Cambodia, like 30 years of the war, and the people still have very traumatized. So we have to have time to educate them. Just like 2 years at all that the Cambodian people, they right now they come to our center and supporting our work. Before not at all. But right now more and more we have the Cambodian people, they come to the center, talking to the girl and giving them love, and we started now.
Because what they need is respect too.
Yeah, we started now. We start by show up like Ratana, so many survivors that they have their own Facebook, they post it, they talking, and then the people start come to the center and they start to know the girl. And the girl, they have also, like Ratana say, we have so many survivors who go to the governments and give a talk or speak in the government. So right now it started like 2 years now. It's better in Cambodia. It's good now. I have hope.
Yes. And did you suffer from the COVID situation? Was it very difficult for you having all these girls so inside, or how was it?
Yes, after talking to you last week, and we have now COVID now in Cambodia. It's like it started like 3 days ago now in the community, the COVID in community. So in 1 day, in 2 days, we have like 17 people infected. So right now our center is closed. We close, it means like they just stay at the center, and we have few survivor there. I'm there, so our survivors still there, but we don't want the staff to stay at home, not come and work. We closed for 2 weeks in Cambodia right now.
Okay, so it's very recent in Cambodia.
Yeah, it is. We suffer like 7 months like you, like long time, but it's not easy in this period now.
Yeah, so the girls, once they have been educated, therapy done, etc. So when they leave you, and do you remain in contact? Do they still need you, or they can fly and goodbye?
You can say to all of them, I cannot fly, but they never fly. They always come back because I'm a mommy. They come like Sunday, Saturday, and when we have the Khmer New Year's, that other New Year, because the girl in Cambodia is so difficult to go back to their parents because they have some like miscommunication with the parents. So what they gone through, they cannot tell to the parents, but they can tell to me. So I'm like their friend. So whatever they go back, they got married and all, they just come to me and talking to me when they have problems. So, and thank you to Facebook, because Facebook also like, we can connect. So every night I talk to all two girls. So we group the girl together. So when they have a problem, they can come to me, and sometimes they just talking to, like I tell you about survivor network. So we have like so many survivor everywhere in AFESIP that I set up. So the girl, because survivor network, but it's the girls supporting each other. And one thing that I forget to tell you is about, here in AFESIP, we set up also the giving back to AFESIP. It means like the girl who have been educated or who have been like training in AFESIP, when they go back to the village, they had to give back. It means like one can help other victim, other girl.
Yeah.
So we have so many salon can provide also to other victim without paying.
Good. Somaly, you have also a very interesting story yourself, because so you were kidnapped and then enslaved for 10 years or so, and then you escaped
And then you wrote a book about your story, and it's a very good book that I read. It's called The Road of Lost Innocence. And then you became a celebrity, kind of celebrity in the US, but big time. I mean, she was in Vogue, she was everywhere, she was a celebrity. People would fight to have her at their conferences, etc. And then she fell out of grace for something that we will not speak of now, but she really fell out of grace. And this must have been incredibly difficult for you. And so you had the experience of a slave, and then the experience of coming from top here to down there. So how do you survive all that, and who you are now?
Thank you. And then that is good to share with all survivors. I am a survivor.
Yeah.
I can survive for everything. So, you know, when I was known, like a lot of people put me up. I've been never up like everyone. I have no education. So for me, my heart is for my babies, for my girl. I don't care about other. I only care about how to make my girl in the center surviving. That is my one thing interest in my life. To go up and fell down, of course that it get hurt. For me, it's not to get hurt because I fall down, but it's hurt me when the people, they are scared of losing their face. That is make me very sad, because what? We always try to encourage victim to speak up. When the victim speak up, and then when the victim fail, like no one supporting each other, not at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And that very worst and bad thing that I tell, like, everyone have no courage. And I don't have respect for all these people. When I fell down, everyone cut money. And I was like, we have at the center, we have 3 center, we have 500 girls at my center. They cut off money. And they bring computer, everything back. And so many life, we have like 500 life with me, with no money.
Yeah.
All these girls was in university.
Yeah.
They come from state and take computer back. That is a human? No.
Mm-hmm.
So every girl I bring, everyone in my son in my house, and all the girls, of course, they were crying.
Yeah.
And it was like the entire my life. That is the years that I was working for whole life, like 24 hours. So of course the people, Somalia, you have to fight back. Why I have to fight back?
Yes.
For me, like I tell you, the most important is the girl. So I spend my life explain one by one girl. Yeah. When everyone get better, I start set up my center. And I had to say thank you to Suzanne Sarandon. She always stand up with me. And she says, Somaly, don't give up. And you have to come and speak. I said, no, I'm enough with these people, fake people. I call them fake people, no. So I have Switzerland. I had to say thank you to all my Swiss people. They trust in me. And this trust has made me better in life because they give me hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so at the same time, the girls stay in my house, and I tell all of them, when they look at me and I look at them, they say, Mommy, how we can eat? So we have to boil rice. We have no food. So I have to sell cake. I have to sell coffee. I have to sell everything, one by one. Reintegrate them back.
You keep finding funding. So you mentioned the funding coming from Switzerland, which is wonderful. And where do you get your funding from to be able to achieve everything you achieve?
We have from Switzerland, and we have also from Australia, and we have also Suzanne Sarandon from state, a little bit from state.
Yeah.
And we have some friend who are helping me, you know. So we have some people, but it was like million and cut to nothing.
To nothing.
So yeah, but I've been never scared of my life. So I tell my girl, I'm survivor. I've been in the cage. I've been everywhere. I never scared. So just no food is okay.
Good for you, Somaly. Taban, you didn't have to suffer that. You were not shoot to the stars yet. It will come. It will come.
I need to get out of hospital first.
Get out of the hospital. So, you know, you have done all that, and then your success, the success you have is when they can leave the camps,
and they live as human beings who can walk with their head up in the stars, or at least, you know, they can look at themselves in the mirror. So this is a huge achievement. And so what else will you do? Because hopefully the Yazidi camps will not be forever. They will find a life back.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is we see ourselves as a space that provides tools and opportunities and just opens doors. So for the women, for example, that have had businesses, their lives have completely transformed because they've gone from not knowing how to read and write to never having a business or an income to being a fully fledged income earner. And actually, it's changed the way that they're seen in the community. For example, I can give you a story of a lady called Hafer. She's deaf and mute, and in the community, anyone with any kind of disability is kind of pushed aside anyway. They're seen as a burden. So when she was taken by ISIS had killed her husband in front of her and the whole family. Her and her children were taken by ISIS. Her boys were taken to be trained to become soldiers, and she was taken to be sold on as a sex slave. Now, when she was rescued, she had to wait for her sons to come back. She came back to the camp, and actually her own family disowned her. They didn't want to look after her for several reasons. One, because she was deaf and mute and they saw her as a burden and as a single mum, but also because of what had happened, and it was a bit of a stigma that they couldn't handle. So she was left completely on her own. And in her case, we managed to help her find her own cabin. We put her through the adult literacy class, and actually she'd never been to school. And for the first time in her life, because she's deaf and mute, she had a way to communicate. So she was learning how to read and write, and her reading and writing was her way of kind of communicating with people. So she would now write something and say, this is what I want. And then she went on to do the Sewing Sisters course, which made her self-employed in sewing. But then also she went through our Women's Business Incubator program, where we actually trained them fully on how to set up a small business. And she picked what business she wanted, and she picked phone cards, mobile phone top-up cards, which I thought was genius because it's so simple and everyone in the camps need it. Therefore, she'll be making a lot of money. And actually, all the businesses that we've helped set up have been extremely successful because they know what's needed in the camps. Now, if they're to go back to Sinjar or any part of Kurdistan or wherever they leave, they can take those skills with them. And actually, we are starting to look at reintegration programs where those that are looking to go back, we help them reintegrate back into where they're moving to see if there are projects that they can set up there, businesses that they can set up there. But I think the healing is the most important. You know, our psychologist is remote, and they've also always got access to our psychologists. So there's lots of different ways that we can continue to support them once they leave or stay.
So with all this knowledge that you have now taken, all of you more or less, if we think of, you know, there are 40 million slaves officially, there are a lot more probably. I mean, one day when I was in his ashram with Kailash, I was asking him, but how many children do you think are slaves in India? Because it is his job to rescue the children from slavery. And he said, well, nobody knows, maybe 30 million, okay? Officially, there are 5 million slaves in India. And when you think that officially there are 40 million slaves in the world, if already you have 30 million children in India, then it means the numbers are completely wrong. What I mean by that is whatever is the number in hundreds or 200s, I have no idea. But so many people are in need of these therapies that all of you have put up and organized and done. How could it be shared on a much bigger scale to many more people that need it? That's a genuine question. And
I mean, I could answer that. I'm working on a project to hopefully kind of help support that, because we noticed in our camps that the one thing that was needed was therapy and mental health support, and actually there aren't enough therapists. And what's happening is that we have, you know, in the region, we've got 5 million population, 2.6 million people displaced internally into the region overnight. And in that 7.6 million population, there's only like 900 therapists. And those 900 therapists are mainly based in the cities, so they can't actually access the camps. So that's what we were finding, is that there's a shortage of therapists, but also the way that therapy is taken is different in different cultures. So we have to take that into account. But because of the way that we've been working with COVID as well, we've realized that remote therapy is critical. And we're working on a project to hopefully kind of solve that problem, not just for the region, but globally as well. Although it's a big project, we'll kind of, I guess I can talk about it more once we are ready to talk about it. But there is a massive, massive need, and we have a solution for it.
Yeah. And I hope we can, I mean, I'm really trying to help on that. And I really would love that we come with, you know, it's so extraordinary to see the three of you, you know, doing each in your corner of the globe, something indispensable, totally indispensable. And there is nothing that put all that together and try to systematize it and to get access to so many more. And you have the equivalent of what you do in London, in Paris, everywhere, in New York, in every big city in the US, etc. You have government interested in slavery. This is recent, but you know, well, if you take the business of slavery, it's $150 billion officially, according to the ILO, which is the UN. Okay. All profit, of course, because you don't have anything to pay. So it's all profit. It's fantastic for the business owners, that is said, the owners of slaves. So government has started to address the issue. The lion's share is really the US, but also in the UK and in France, in other countries, they have really started to take laws, address the issue of forced labor, that is to say, people who are working and are not paid or just paid for subsistence, and that's it. And so we can hope that thing will improve, but it has not improved. Everything we see since, at least for me, since 12 years, I'm looking at it and trying to organize, you know, actions, etc. One thing I've seen is that it has grown and not diminished, which is a shame for all of us. I mean, and so my question to all NGOs are always: how do you scale? How do you work together? How do you make this happen? Do you have an answer, Trina?
Yes, and capitalism. No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding, but a more realistic answer. So I believe that the way forward for us to really make a dent in this problem is we need more leaders from the community. We need more and more girls and women who are actually survivors themselves take leadership to solve this problem, because and therefore Somaly is so inspiring, because I don't think I will ever really get it. You know, no matter how much I live in the community and spend time with them, I'm never going to be as good a leader as them. And therefore we need more and more community leaders. So that's what we do at Kranti. But also for scaling, we realize that there are lots of great organizations in India that do other parts of rehabilitation well. So, you know, maybe they have a really good mainstream education program, or they have an English teaching program, they have a skill development program, you know, like Somaly was saying, vocational training, etc. But the parts that are missing is, of course, the mental health part, which Taban talked about, and this leadership, social justice education part, right? And that's what we do well, our secret sauce. So what we are doing now, starting this year, is we are partnering with organizations that do all of these other parts, and we are layering our curriculum into it. And our girls who graduated from our program during the scaling pilot, they are the teachers of our curriculum in these other organizations. And so we are hoping, and it's not a very high cost of scaling, because all we really need is the salary of that teacher who's teaching that curriculum. And so this year we're doing it with 3 organizations, and then we plan to expand, exponentially going forward, and just build more and more leaders from the community.
Great. Somaly, you want to answer on that question of scale?
Sorry. I think that we need, for myself, we need more survivors. So we need more survivors to stand up and speak. But we also need the people who supporting them. We really need to work together and hold each other. I think a good leader who really tough and strong enough to help women to build up their capacity, and also supporting their voice, because the voice, one woman stand up, one get down, one stand up, one get down. So if we let the people down like this, is no one come and have a courage to stand up and talking.
Yeah. Atalanta.
Yeah, and yes, I just wanted to say that we've been talking about how we help survivors who have already been through the problem. And I think Trina's response was, and capitalism, but in a way what you're talking about is prevention. And I think that's something that we need to address, because for these young women to have been found in these situations, it means that they are their families are totally in distress. And I know there's somebody here, Katerina Baltus, who has a program which has been specifically set up to help prevent those young women ending up in slavery. So I would like to see if Katerina we can unmute you and are you there, Katerina?
Yes, I am.
There you go. And we can there you go. Thank you. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what you're doing in terms of prevention, because that's something we didn't talk about yet.
Exactly. And at first I want to say deepest appreciation for all the work that has been shared today. I think it's really impressive. And also from the organization I work for, Room to Read's perspective, I think this is very essential work, of course. And Room to Read is not a specialized organization specifically in this field at all. It's a little bit more general, but we have been working with maybe girls in very similar situations as have been described today. And one example that I wanted to bring forward is Kamlari girls in Nepal, which is also young girls, sometimes as young as 4 or 5 or 6, that are being sold for different reasons. Sometimes parents get some money in return, but also sometimes not even that, but at least they're out of the financial burden for their parents. And these girls, they don't get an education, they don't go to school, they work as slaves, very long hours from a young age. And they sometimes are escaped, or they are being freed at the age of teenage years, somewhere in the teenage years. And then one thing that Room to Read does is we work with these young women or girls to help transition from that position towards a situation where they can go to school and get a fair chance. And I agree, I think Trina mentioned that as well, that these girls can't just be put back into the school system, of course, because they are far behind, and of course their situation is very difficult. But we have mentors to help these girls, and we have programs that supplement knowledge that they have been lacking. But in terms of your question about prevention, we strongly believe that education is very essential for boys and girls and communities around them as well, as a first start to address the issue. And it is a longer term solution. Unfortunately, there's no overnight answer to this big issue at all. And I'm sure the speakers of today can speak much better about that than I can. But I think that in our program, how we work with communities in a very broad way, it's about giving them the skills. Firstly, the girls, adolescent girls, to give them the skills to stand up for themselves, to be able to negotiate the key decisions in their life, to empower them really to make their own choices in life. But with that comes also the boys, because I think a lot of these issues has to do with gender inequality, and nobody can deny that they play at least an equal part in the answer to that question. So also life skills for boys and an understanding of the importance of gender equality and how that can also benefit themselves is very important thing that Room to Read focuses on. But also the broader community leaders, principals from schools, government officials, they are also an important factor in that. So we also work with those groups to understand gender equality, and we show them by delivering our programs also in Cambodia. It's our second country in terms of size where we implement our programs, where whole communities change, understand the value of educating girls, of gender equality. And we start for girls at young ages, and we work with families from young ages. So with that, whole communities have a better understanding and focus on gender equality. And at Room to Read, we believe that that is at least a small start to hopefully prevent down the road a lot of these issues. But again, I think our programs is maybe one solution contributing to it. I'm sure that, again, the speakers of today have much more and more specialized insight in what would be helpful. And I'm actually also very curious, before you mentioned it, I was actually intrigued to ask it myself, like what is it that the world needs to do, what we maybe as mostly women, I think today, can do to start preventing this very significant and serious issue.
Trina, do you want to answer? I will just share an experience I had in India. Indeed, that's why I think of you, Trina, which was the organization of Kailash Satyarthi. They go into all the villages in Rajasthan and teach the children, very small children, that they have rights. And they have rights like having a toilet for girls in the school. They have rights like not be married at 10 or 11 or 12. They have rights, etc. And it's extraordinary to see these children empowered and taking charge of or defending other children on their rights. And I saw examples of that. It was extraordinary. Do you have more, Trina?
Yes. So for prevention, I think, it is, we often think that poverty is a driver for trafficking and slavery, which of course it is. But we must note that families in poverty are selling their girls and not their sons, right? Like of course, boys are part of this equation and need to be worked with, much like Catherine said, but the proportion of girls to boys is huge, right? And so I feel like what really needs to happen for prevention is we have to increase society's perception of how we value a woman. Why is it that a family in poverty is selling or sending their girl away and not the boy, right? It's because the girl is seen as a liability and the boy as an asset, right? And so I think the long-term prevention plan must be to show the value of women in society. And we've of course, there's been a huge, wonderful women's rights movement in India that's been sort of building up towards it. Still very far away from the ideal, but also at Kranti, right? Like with our girls going to university abroad and doing the kind of work we do, that's what we want to show, that this is what your girl who you thought was a liability is capable of. And many of our girls have now gone back, and Monique, you know this, they take care of their mothers and, have brought their mothers out of sex work. And that's what we want to build more and more stories of. so that just the value of women in society increases.
Taban, any idea on prevention?
I think I definitely agree with Trina. We also implement programs where we work with boys, especially in the camps. We noticed that there's a particular age group of boys that's completely ignored, and that's from 8 to 13, 14. You know, there are lots of organizations working with girls and boys of an older age group and maybe younger, but that particular group is completely ignored. And we noticed that all they do is just hang around in the camps and they imitate their peers. So we thought actually this age group is critical for us to work with them. So we started a Mother and Sons program where we introduce positive parenting, but also positive masculinity. Now this is very, very new to the region, so we're treading carefully, but we're hoping to kind of take that program out across the region, including religious leaders, because religious leaders are key in these communities. The Yazidi women, the only reason the Yazidi women spoke up and the whole world knows what happened to the Yazidi women is because the religious leaders said, let your women speak. That is the only reason. You know, in my genocide, I was a child political prisoner at the age of 4, and so was my mom and grandparents. We weren't allowed to speak. We weren't allowed to talk about anything that happened to us. You know, it was a shame. And if anyone is sexually assaulted or anything that happens in that area, you can't talk about it. It brings shame to the family. So actually the religious leaders played a key role. So we incorporate them. But I think for me as well, in terms of prevention, and maybe this goes back to my technology background. So my background's in technology, and I know that you can do amazing things with technology. And I do genuinely believe that there are such brilliant organizations doing amazing stuff on the ground, yet they don't have access to these technologies. So I think building a technology which builds bridges between these organizations to create a solution is the way to help prevent. So I think using technology, but also the on-the-ground preventative measures are critical as well.
Yeah, good. Somaly or Chan, one of you wants to add on this aspect of prevention?
We give voice to the survivor now.
Thank you. I just learned that all of you have a lot of idea to prevention, and I just give some that so like us in our communities about the education is really important. Education to the young women and girls about the trafficking and sexual abuse. Yes, women and boys, sorry, and especially from rural areas, and it means that they're far away from the countryside. Yes, and one more thing about the government, we have to be strong in legal process, and about the security, we have to be strong. Yes, and about the social media, yes, we can posting about social. Currently, I think that social media is really popular. We can use it to prevention about the high risk and about everything to the women in the rural area, because I think that the technology is really popular. We can broadcast, we can sharing about the education to prevention themselves, and about the disadvantage after the sex trafficking or sexual abuse. Yes, to the women and to the men, that we can share it. And yes, about the substance abuse is really important, because some cross is made from the substance abuse, about the drug and about the alcohol. Yes, so we should be think about it and prevention it. Yes, it is just my idea that I would like to share to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chan. Thank you very much. Look, I think it was a fantastic discussion. I mean, I have no idea how survivors of trafficking could ever recover without the help of the extraordinary NGOs that you are, and that so many others are in the front lines all over the world. I mean, the NGOs in the front lines have really a role that is
much bigger than what we give them, and I have great admiration for them. So thank you to all. I think it was a fascinating discussion. Thank you for your extraordinary work. And maybe Atalante, you want to wrap up?
Wrap up.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Monique, for your magic. Thank you so much, because I think this is your knowledge and your compassion has allowed these stories to come out with such strength and such authenticity, and with so much hope. It's so interesting because I think you're all working in different environments, but clearly there was a lot of shared experiences, and the importance of the role models that are coming through from the survivors. And I think that came through all of you, how your survivors have gone back into the organization and are helping the others, the young women that are coming through. So I think that's a really, really interesting and important point that has come out very, very strongly. I'm very proud to say that Giving Women is now working with the Lotus Flower, and that this is one of the projects that has recently selected by us, and this is what I talked about, the core of our work, which is working with those programs that you talk about, the frontline programs that are working on the ground, that are small and flexible, and sometimes people say, well, can they replicate, can they grow? But with the help of all of us, these programs can go to the next stage, and this is something that we at Giving Women really, really believe in. Kranti, we have had a wonderful experience with, because they came to Geneva and performed. The young women, I think there were 17 young women from Kranti who actually came to Geneva and performed in my garden and told their stories. So those are the things that I think really bring things alive. And I'm very grateful to the foundation of Solina in Geneva that brought Somaly Mom to my attention and was the actual instigator of this panel discussion. So a big thank you to everybody. We have had wonderful comments in our chat where people have really, really appreciated the honesty with which you've all shared and the guidance through this discussion by Monique. We have put the websites now. Kranti is functioning, so we encourage you, if you've been touched by these programs, they all need money. So please, however little you have, if there's one that's really is important to you, please feel free to donate, because this is one of the things at Giving Women that we do. We want to bring people's attention to the program that are doing this incredible work. So, and those of you who've been touched by the work of Giving Women, we invite you to join us, because I think we are doing some really, really important work.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. Till the next time, thank you, Monique. Thank you, Trina. Thank you, Taban, from your hospital room. Thank you, Somaly Mom and Ratana. Thank you all so much.
Thank you
have a
so
wonderful
much.
afternoon.